Hello everybody, my name is Pravus. Let's try Old World, a new 4X strategy game that is going into early access starting today in the Epic Games Store, developed by Mohawk Games. The lead developer for this game is Soren Johnson, a name you guys might recognize. He was the co-lead designer for Civilization 3, the lead designer for the classic Civilization 4, before he and his wife created Mohawk Games and brought us Off-World Trading Company, which I have played on the channel before and I've had a lot of fun with it. And they were kind enough to give me a development build today so I can show it off for you guys. I will say, having played this for a while, this game feels like a return to form for Soren Johnson in a Civilization style of game. But it is kind of deceptive. Though it looks a lot like Civilization, this is definitively not Civilization. In fact, if you try to play it the same way you would Civilization, you will probably die, as I have for my last 3 test games. It can be pretty darn brutal. The game intrigues me, and that's why I wanted to show it off for you guys today. I think it has a lot of potential. It will be interesting to see where it goes over the next few months. So at the beginning of the game, you have to choose your starting leader/civilization. We have access to Assyria, Babylonia, Carthage, Egypt, Greece, Persia, and Rome. Now, unlike Civilization, this starting character is not immortal and will not be leading your country all the way until the space race. 1, because I don't even think you can leave the classical era, but 2, because in a lot of ways this is a Dynasty game as well as a Civilization builder. This is your starting character. Your character can grow old and die, and then you will play as their successors, which means you need to get married, you need to have children, you need to tutor those children, you need to deal with all manner of different events and internal politics. It's a very interesting concept for a game. In fact, a lot of it reminds me of some elements from Crusader Kings 2. I don't think it would be inaccurate to say that Old World feels a lot like a Civilization Crusader Kings 2 crossover, which I think is a very intriguing concept for a game. But even that isn't quite a fair enough description because the economy is way more nuanced than a game like Civilization. I have not quite mastered it, and I think that's why the AI continues to dominate me. For today's game, let's go ahead and play as Philip, the leader of Greece, the father of Alexander the Great. Should be a pretty good starting civilization for me. And for our difficulty, now I hate to do this, but I am going to be playing on an easier difficulty. I started by playing on the Noble, because I figured, hey, normal difficulty, that seems fine. Killed me. Played on the Strong, still killed me. Played on the Good, killed me even more. So now I'm going to go ahead and reduce things to the Just, because until I figure out all the nuance and figure out what the AI apparently knows that I don't, I'm just going to continue getting stomped on. So this is going to have to be good enough. Map size, medium. There's several different types of map scripts. We're just going to go for something random today, and let's go ahead and start up and see if I can get my act together and actually make progress in this game. Okay, here we are. Now, right off the bat, you're going to see that this game does give a lot of those Civilization vibes. There are hexes, there are luxury and strategic types of resources that you will want to develop. So, on face value, this feels like a Civilization clone. But as I said, it most definitely is not. Let's go over some of the starting moves and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. First off, with our settler, we cannot just place down a city anywhere we want. We have to place on a city site. This is a tribe that already exists here, and with our leader, we are going to raise them up to a proper civilization. As time goes on, we can find more of these city sites, and we will be able to place down some settlers and raise them up and annex them into the empire as well. But when you are first founding your city, you have to make a decision. What type of city is it going to be? Or more accurately, what great family is going to be in charge? There are 4 to choose from at the beginning of the game, and as you found more cities, you will be able to dedicate them to other great families, but you can only ever have 3 of the 4. So our options include the Argead Riders, who are a bit more militaristic. All cities will remain connected if they are controlled by this family. The family seat will mean that all units can now be built using horses, camels, and elephants. We gain a free scout, etc. All pretty nice. Then we have the artisans, the Kipselid family, which gives us extra culture. Mines and lumber mills are more effective. Siege and ship units start with an extra trait. We get a free worker, etc. The Seleucids, more civics, culture, etc. And the Statesmans, which give more orders and civics, and also we gain a free treasury. Lots of cool stuff to choose from here. I'm not going to go into every single detail here. One cool feature you should know about, though, if you middle-click while looking at something like this, it holds the UI in place, so you can now actually hover over things and learn what everything does. Very, very useful. What do I want? What do I want here? Let's go for the extra... Let's go for the treasury, unlock the decree, and get some free civics so we can go for early laws and stuff. We're going to go for the Alcaemenid family? However you're supposed to say that. Boom, there it is. All right, so we have a great family in control of Athens. As I said before, if we settle another city, let's say right here at this city site, which we've immediately discovered, we can dedicate it to another great family as well. Now, we start off with 3 different units at the beginning of the game. We get a free worker, we get a warrior for a melee unit, and we have a scout. Now, a major deviation in Old World from a game like Civilization is the orders mechanic. Every turn is effectively 1 year in the game, and every year you only can issue so many orders to your units. So let's take this scout for example. I start off with 7 orders this turn. Next turn I will have 17. If I want to move my scout 1 order, I can do so going in this direction, or maybe I want to go up to this hill. Let's say I want to go up to this hill right here. Okay, I just spent 1 order. Now I can spend another order and move him again, which I'm going to go ahead and do right over here. Okay, now I can move him yet again, and as long as I have more orders, I can continue to issue more movement commands for my units. You don't have to just move him like 1 tile or 2 tiles and then just be done until your next turn. You can buy more turns using your military points or some money, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Your units do have some limitations with a fatigue limit. That's these little pips up here at the top, so I can really move this guy 5 times before he's going to get exhausted, and we'd have to have some penalties if I try moving him again. But let's move him 1 more time this way, and oh look, we just found another city site and some other cool stuff. So this is a really interesting mechanic here with orders. Basically, if you train a load of units, you are going to wish that you had a lot of extra orders to back that up, because you start facing logistical limitations the larger and more complicated your empire gets, which is a really interesting mechanic for this game. It means if you have lots of military units, you may have to move them very slowly, whereas if you only have a handful of elite fighting units, you can move them all pretty darn quickly using what orders you have. But if you want to move a large group of military units, you're probably not going to be moving around your workers and conducting any more economic benefits. So there's a lot of trade-offs with this mechanic, and it's really intriguing to me. Now let's take a look at our worker. There's a few things we can do over here. We can build a mine, we can build an amphitheater, perhaps a farm on this wheat, or perhaps some fishing nets, etc. Lots of useful things that we can do over here. One thing I want to go over real quick are some of the different resources, because this is another major deviation from a game like Civilization, and this is one area where I think I haven't quite figured it all out. So most resources are global to some extent. You have your money stockpiles, you have food stockpiles, iron, lumber, stone, science rate, civics rate, training rate, and then eventually some luxury goods. Now, if we go to our capital city, at the beginning of the game, we are starting by building up a new settler so we can claim another city, and this is taking up a whole nother mechanic called growth. This one is not global, this is actually a local modifier. You do not grow by having lots of food, you grow by having growth. So when I look at building a farm over here, for example, and gaining 5 food, that's only going to go in my stockpile, but won't necessarily grow Athens. Whereas if I build a farm over here on the wheat, because this is special, I would indeed gain some growth and speed up the growth of the city. So that's one important thing to keep in mind. Another local value you have to worry about is culture. As you fill up your culture, you will unlock new levels of various different buildings and civics, which give you some important bonuses. And then we have discontent, which is kind of like your happiness/unrest mechanic. Now, as I said before, the settler is being produced using the city's innate growth. And we can see here we have a base of 8 because it is connected to my capital, because it is the capital, we get another 2, and because we have freshwater access, we grow with another 20%. So we can grow both our settlers and our workers pretty quickly. Whereas if I wanted to instead shift over to building up a warrior, which I can add on over here, this guy would not be built using growth, he would be built using iron, which is even further different from something like a decree over here, which is going to be used using your civics rate. All these local values can be used to build different things depending on what you want. So it's not as simple as Civilization where you just want to get a bunch of hammers for production. Focusing on specializing a city in a particular thing, like civics, like military, like iron production, will make them better at producing various things. And oops, let's go ahead and move you up here to the front again. And even if you don't want to be building some of these units, I mean, at least they still go to the stockpile. So if I produce iron, but I'm not building military units, at least it's still going here, and there will be important for maintenance of different units. I'm just trying to give you some sense of just how nuanced the game can really be. Yes, by the way, walking on water, as I said, early access. Let's go ahead and start by building a farm because I would like to get some extra growth and start getting more citizens in the city. Now, this is going to take 3 years, which basically means 3 turns, because every year is going to be a turn, so do keep that in mind. Now I'm going to go for my military unit. I could certainly move him around. We could spend our turn spending some training rate to promote him right off the bat, give him some sort of a bonus. Not going to worry about this guy quite yet, but be aware that that is an option. I'm going to go ahead and take this scout, and we're actually going to move on to this gold pile right here. And one interesting thing that you can do with your scouts is you can harvest the resource as long as it is not within your borders and it is close enough. I don't know what the exact range is, maybe it's like 30 tiles or something, but we can harvest this gold. It will take one of my orders, but will gain 37 gold. So even if you don't directly control something within your borders, you can still benefit just by harvesting and sending back some small amounts of resources. Pretty interesting concept right there. There is a research tree, which is dictated by your science rate. Let's see, to start off, we can go for trapping, divination, and administration. These are the 5 different technologies I'm allowed to go for. I'm going to go for probably the shrine to start, which is what it recommends, which will unlock various different shrines to different gods and give me additional benefits. I like that. But if we want to take a look at the tech tree, we can see what this looks like right here. And I don't know what the best build orders are yet, but this all does end at some point in the classical era, the late classical era. We can see that there are political reforms and military reforms, sarissas, fiscal policy, crossbows, vaulting. Yeah, lots of cool stuff going on here. But I haven't gotten too far into this game with that, so I don't know just how powerful all these techs are. I'm just going to assume that science is pretty darn important. There's also religion in this game. I have not played much with these guys, but you can eventually found Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Christianity, which I don't even really think of as a classical religion, but I guess it is, and also Manichaeism, which I am not really familiar with. What these all mean, I have no idea. So far, I have not seen any particular benefit for one religion over another, but it looks to me like there ought to be different tiers of advantages depending on what religion you go for, so I probably will experiment with this. I just don't have a lot of experience with it at the moment. Now, there's some other things to take a look at over here. So if we take a look at our character, right now King Philip is married to Queen Consort Olympias, and she has her own different stats and her own different traits. She is a schemer. She's also debauched, which as a governor would mean that the people are going to get more unrest. She's not courageous, but she is wise, and she has her own separate opinion of me. Our son, Prince Alexander, is my heir thanks to my primogeniture inheritance law. He is extremely courageous, which makes sense. His archetype is a hero, and he is bold by personality. Over time, we might be able to train him a bit more with more tutors and get him some extra stats before he will succeed us when King Philip dies. Really interesting concept there. There's also individual laws. As you get some new technology, you will have to decide, for example, do you want to go for slavery or freedom, and they'll have their own different benefits. Once you get aristocracy tech, do you want to go for centralization or vassalage? And so on and so forth, all the way down towards some fiscal policy. Really cool concept going on there. All right, let's go ahead and end this year since I've spent all of my orders and continue playing with the game. I don't want to spend absolutely forever going over every little detail of the mechanics. I just want you to see where this game is very different, because this game definitely differentiates itself from Civilization. You just wouldn't know that looking at it, but I'm telling you, it's a whole different beast. Time passes quickly. You still remember the birth of Prince Alexander, but he is growing up fast and eager to learn. How would you like to educate Prince Alexander? We can teach him in tactics, rhetoric, commerce, and philosophy. And this is going to give him a +1 in some sort of stat, either courage, charisma, discipline, or wisdom, which it tells you right off the bat what kind of a benefit you will get. Also becomes a student of a particular category, which means we'll get more events in the future based on his education. Given that this is Alexander the Great, I'm going to go ahead and have him study tactics just because that seems sort of appropriate to me. All right, you can see we have 16 orders now, so I'm going to go ahead and move my scout off this direction. Let's harvest these horses and enjoy some free gold back to the kingdom. We did discover some more gold, and we automatically get a little bit of a harvest. I'm going to go ahead and move here and harvest some more for extra cash. And then I do see that there is another city site over here. Let's get on the hill. We can go for a little bit more. Okay, and now he is exhausted. We could force him to move by spending 2 orders and 50 of our training rate, but I'm going to let him go ahead and just sit there for a little while. The soldier doesn't have a whole lot to do at the moment. We don't have any barbarians around, so I'm just going to leave you here. Actually, no. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and take my turn with him to promote. What would I like? Melee, better critical chance, more strength. I think we'll just give you some straight up... let's give you some straight up strength for now. And you can see that our warrior has been trained up. We could actually put Philip as a general for the warrior, and I'm going to go ahead and do this for now. Because another thing you can do at the beginning of a turn is assign a general based on what characters you currently have. And men and women can kind of fulfill the same roles regardless of their gender. So a woman could absolutely be a general, the man could be the governor, etc., etc. It's all perfectly reasonable. The more characters you have in your court, either as direct family members or other special characters, the more governors, the more tutors, the more generals you ultimately can have. All right, let's go ahead and continue here. Here's one of our first events, New Thoughts. The birth of your daughter, Duchess Anite, however you say that in Greek, has inspired you to see the world in a new light. More than ever, you wish to make most of your time on this mortal plane. What is most important in life? A royal bloodline that matters. We become warlike, which gives us extra military skill, or more training rate, for every culture level that we have in our empire, which right now is not very high. We can become inspired, which gives us additional culture per culture level, so we kind of scale that up quickly. Or family is the only treasure worth pursuing, which gives us gracious, which gives us additional charisma, not tied to our culture level. Since my culture level is basically inconsequential right now, I'm going to go ahead and become gracious and get that extra charisma, gaining myself some extra civics rates here, which I eventually can spend on laws, which seems pretty nice. Also, as a warrior, we get some extra defense, which is pretty good for us, given that we are now a general. Let's go back to our scout over here and continue exploring the world, looking for anything that we can loot. Mountains are pretty good because you can set up some quarries. One thing I have not found in this game is lumber mills. I know they keep saying that they exist, but I have yet to find them, and it's very important because I run out of lumber quickly in this game. You can buy and sell resources, by the way, for money up over here just by hovering over it and just choosing one of these options. Not going to worry about that right now, but it is certainly going to be an option. I could promote again, but you haven't got much experience, so I'd have to spend a lot of training rate. As these units automatically gain experience, the cost to promote them reduces by a substantial amount. I'm for now going to just go ahead and put you on sleep because I don't want to waste a lot of time on that. Let's move on to the next year. In a surprise piece of news, you receive an update from your heir. Academy scholars respect him, and the other students compete to befriend him. He is thriving as a tactician. Makes sense as Alexander. Do we want to encourage him to focus on scholarship, which gives him wisdom, so when he becomes our leader, we will get some extra science. Actually, no, I think this gives me more science right now, even. Or we could say that we want him to pursue more friends, which means he becomes affable, and we gain extra growth per culture level. This is probably better, but I'm going to take the immediate benefit of a little bit of extra science, and you can see this did indeed go up to 18. So even though he is not my leader, we do get a benefit from how we educate him, which is a pretty interesting change. I'm telling you, the idea of making this into a dynastic game is fascinating to me. Hey, 4 extra culture in Athens. I will absolutely harvest the salt. Thank you very much. Let's go over this way. Of course, we still move very slowly in the forests, which makes sense. Let's harvest some game and get some extra food. Again, going to our global resources. We just finished with the farm, which means now we're producing a fair bit of food, but the only thing we have a deficit of right now is iron, and that's because I have a warrior unit. That said, I have plenty right now. I'm not worried about it, so I'm going to go ahead and send my worker over here to get some more nets. Not because I need more food exactly, but because a little bit more growth rate sounds attractive to me. So I'm going to go for that, assuming that growth is good. Maybe it's not. Maybe it shouldn't be a priority. But that's what I'm going to do anyway. Our second city, the capital has finished training a settler. Okay, so now we can choose which city we want to go for, which city site. There's one over here and there's one over here. I haven't explored this direction, so I don't know what's over here. I do know that there's gold over here, so let's just try this. I'm going to go ahead and spend 4 orders to move you here right now. Place you up against the ocean, and now we have to decide which family we want to assign for this city. Now, we could found another Alcomenid family city here, but we would not get quite the same benefits from having new family seats. So, for example, family seat, we can hurry city production with money. When it's founded, we gain a culture level. Do we want to gain a free worker in Athens? If I get another worker, we could send him over here to help develop this area. We have 1 worker per city. That's tempting. Over here, we could say that cities are going to be connected, which means his growth rate will be higher. Also, we gain another scout, so we can move around a lot faster. There's a lot of different options here. I'm going to go for the Argead seat so we can be connected and increase our growth rate. Also gain the extra scout right here, because I find myself with more orders than I know what to do with at the moment, and this means I can continue exploring the map. Speaking of which, there is another goodie hut. Let's move here. Emerald Mines. Explorers uncover numerous shafts in the desert hillside, their entrances covered by past landslides. Emeralds litter the dark passages, suggesting this site was once a thriving mine. Your scout wishes to continue excavating to find more valuables, but such actions could cause the mine to collapse. We can reopen the mines, losing a bit of money, but our king gains some experience, and as they gain experience, they can level up and you can give them a free stat. Or leave them the mines alone, and we only get 10 experience. I will happily spend 50 gold for 10 extra experience for Philip, so he levels up a little bit sooner. All right, there we go. Kind of thought that I was going to get some money or something, but there you go. Another city site. So we actually have a lot of city sites all very close together over here, which may mean that I want to focus on getting a lot more of our citizens up and running. Now, up to this point, I have not found a major downside to getting a lot of cities. That said, I usually only can build about 4 before I get murdered, so I could be wrong on that. But if we want to go back to our capital, what we could do then in Athens is go ahead and start training up another settler. This will, again, use up my growth rate. right now, which is 13.7, but we can build another settler in 7 years, send them out, and claim yet another city. And the more cities I have, the more production we ultimately have, which is probably a good thing for me. So I'm going to go ahead and do this and get myself this extra settler. And then with this scout, we're going to go ahead and continue exploring the world. I guess I'll go over here and harvest some horses for a little bit of extra cash. Get up over here. We found a silver mine. I want to find out what's around this city site. We may end up becoming a good naval power just by controlling a whole bunch of coastal tiles. I'm not too sure yet. Next units, we can go for one more movement here. What should we do? Let's just go over here to the city site and see what's around. Not a lot. There is a river, though, which means reasonably good growth rate. Okay. And in Sparta, what do we want to produce? Well, we could produce a warrior. We could also go for the Olympiad, which is going to give me extra training rate per day. Or, sorry, per year. That's not bad, I guess. A festival would give me some extra growth rate and reduce our discontentment. I don't know if I need any of this right now, though. I'm going to go ahead and start producing my own worker here so we can continue upgrading some tiles, because I see that we have 2 gold mines, which actually means that maybe we should have dedicated this city to somebody else who had bonuses for mines, now that I think about it. Oh, well. Hey, there's barley over here. Okay. Yeah, all this seems pretty reasonable. All right, moving on to the next turn. Royal birth. Your heart swells with joy as you gaze down upon your newborn son, Duke Miltiades. This is a momentous occasion. How should we celebrate? We can collect gifts. We can send coins to all the nobles, which means all the great families are going to have extra opinion of me for the next 10 turns, or present the baby to an adoring public, which gives me extra culture, and something called legitimacy, which is another resource that I haven't even looked at yet. Where can I find this? Is it under inheritance? Ambitions? This is actually a mission system I haven't even gone into yet. I don't know where you find legitimacy. Legitimacy is important. The more legitimate your ruler is, the more orders you are able to gain per turn. And that's going to be extremely important the larger our empire gets. So we do want to have good legitimate rulers. There's a way to find out how much legitimacy you have. I just don't remember what it is. A familiar face. You hardly recognize the young man who returns from training. Prince Alexander has spent the last several years studying to become a useful member of the court, and now he is ready to serve. We should celebrate. He's no longer a tactics student, okay? We can hold a military parade and I gain some XP, or we can make Prince Alexander more disciplined, which means globally I get a little bit of extra money. I'm going to go ahead and just make Prince Alexander disciplined. That is a trait that will pass on to my successor. Even when Philip dies, we can still benefit from this. So in the long term, I think this is a fine choice. But XP is also pretty good. Now for research, we could go for a temporary stone boost if you want to. Or we could go for labor force, which is our first round of laws. Or perhaps aristocracy, another set of laws. Or ramparts so we can build walls. Also, we unlock the Chancellor, which I believe is a court member, which can give us some sort of a benefit. Not sure if I want this right now. I think I'm going to go for the labor force, probably, and we can choose between either slavery or freedom. All right, and we have an emerald mine rebuilt. Okay, so that's done. After months of arduous labor, your crews of engineers have rebuilt the emerald mines. Now that a base camp has been established, our workers may brave the depth. Our gamble paid off. Oh, cool. So it did actually lead to an event chain. I wasn't aware of that because it didn't tell me, but we gained some extra legitimacy, and that tile then gains gems on it. So as our culture continues to expand and grabs this extra tile, we'll gain some extra benefit. Now I'm really wishing that we had placed down the family that gets benefits from mines over here, but oh well, you live and you learn. There's a lot to experience with this game. Hey, a load of goats. Absolute ton of goats. Okay, even more goats. If I wanted that, that would certainly be useful for me. Barbarians. Okay, so these guys we have to fight if we want to take over another city site. Not a high priority right now, but let's go for the Goody Hut. Monuments of Law. Our explorers come upon a series of weathered monuments lost to the undergrowth. Upon closer inspection, the structures appear to be inscribed with laws of a forgotten city. We can send the sages to gain me some extra civics, or we can send laborers to smash it into rubble and get some stone. I'm going to get some civics, because I find that to be a little bit more difficult to get than simple strategic resources, but both are perfectly viable. And at this point, I think you guys are getting some idea of what the early game looks like. Just continue to explore, expand, and conquer. Now, one thing I will note, the AI in this game, when you're going up against a rival, is extremely aggressive, right? For some reason, whenever I have gotten into some sort of an altercation with another neighboring civilization, they non-stop train units to beat the snot out of you. I'm hoping I can show you a little bit what that looks like, but do be aware, if you are not actively going to gain some immediate benefit for your global economy, just keep training units. Don't stop training units. They're almost always going to be good. Oh, by the way, we have our first ambition. Let me show you this before we do a quick jump cut forward. You have unlocked the ability to choose an ambition. This is kind of like a mission system for your character. So if we can control 4 cities, we will get some sort of a benefit. It doesn't tell you what it is right away. Or if we kill 5 enemy units. I'm going to go for controlling 4 cities because we're actually already training up a settler. If I can build up 1 more, we have plenty of city sites around. This seems like an easy enough ambition for me. All right, so this is the early game. I'm going to go ahead and jump forward and then show you guys a little bit more of what the game looks like once it has developed. Okay, my king has died. Philip is out of the way, and that means that Alexander, the new, is in charge with all of his fun stats. So, good. I think we do lose quite a fair bit because one of our major family members is gone, so we're not benefiting from all of his traits, but still, that's how the game works. So now we have our succession done. If we go to our inheritance here, you can actually see that the family tree has expanded quite a bit. Looks like my current heir is my eldest daughter, Metrodora, and I am currently training her to be in philosophy, but I maybe want to change that now that I know she's going to be my heir. Yeah, I don't know if this primogeniture is going to change based on whether we have a son. It doesn't look like it. It says just oldest child inherits. We would eventually be able to change up our inheritance laws if we had unlocked some more, which we have not. Actually, no way we have. Let's see. Ultimate genitor, the youngest child inherits. Lateral, siblings inherit before children. Dynastic, oldest direct line from the founder. And seniority, the oldest dynasty member inherits. So there's a way to totally change who your next leader is going to be if you so desire. Alright, now I've built up a few units over here in my empire, so I'm going to go ahead and launch an attack against Queen Hatshepsut of Egypt and see how well that works. Although there are a few different things we could certainly do in the diplomacy. We could send them some dies, which gives us extra opinion by 40 per year, which is not bad at all. We can ask for some extra police. We could ask them to declare war on people, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just going to go ahead and declare war on them. Proceed with war preparations. They're going to be very angry with me for the next 40 years, but I don't even care, dude. Let's move you up over here. Now we're going to launch our first attack against an enemy city. And we're going to have to first burn down some of the fortifications of said city, but having our slingers is nice because they have a range of 2, so they can actually get in here and do some good damage. Range units are very order efficient because they don't need to move and relocate quite so much, which is very nice. I will say it's also extremely important to have a lot of generals, and this is where having lots of characters becomes helpful because they can give you a lot of extra bonuses for your units and make them significantly more impactful. So I do think it is worth trying to get a lot of family members who are properly trained up in military matters if you can. Otherwise, just sit back and promote for a while because the more powerful your units are, the better you're going to perform. And as I'm telling you, now that we are at war with Egypt, they are going to spend every ounce of production they have just throwing unit after unit after unit after me. And what I think the AI does is they rush production. You can click on this little button right here and spend either a citizen or some gold or some military experience or some civics and gain some discontentment in order to rush out the production of your units. I think that's what the AI does whenever they get desperate. They see that you're coming after them and they just put everything they've got into it. It's a do or die moment for them, which makes perfect sense, really, but also can get very, very annoying because you think you got things under control like you would in Civilization, and all of a sudden they're just raining death upon you with a million freaking arrows. Hey, look, they just trained another unit. Oh, whoop, they just trained up several. Okay, here they come. And this is what I'm talking about. He had nothing, just one unit, and using his order system, a whole bunch just came along the coast and or he just trained some new ones. Which, I mean, okay, great, you know? Maybe that's fine. Maybe that's what you would expect. Maybe it's just me screwing up how I play the game. I don't know, but it can get irritating. We're going to run in here and take the city real quick. And then we're going to go ahead and use the slingers to try and do some damage. We're going to move our units forward to try and exercise some sort of a zone of control and prevent them from doing too much more damage. We'll see if that works. You guys have already done all your stuff. So that's it. I've got 5 units over here, and he's got 4, and presumably probably another 8 on the way. And this is where I get confused. I'm on an easy difficulty, but every time I have tried to play against the AI here, I just get absolutely swarmed by the end of it, and I have done nothing but produce units for the last, like, 20 turns. So we're going to see if that ends up working out. Maybe I am able to survive, maybe not. But it'll certainly be worth trying. At least I was able to take Alexandria, which is currently in anarchy in a few turns. Should flip over to me, I hope. Something I am going to do just for a little bit of fun, we can buy a bunch of stone here, and I'm going to hold down control and buy a couple hundred of it. Well, maybe not quite that much. I'm very close. I want to try building a wonder for the first time. I've never done this before, and I think it would be pretty fun to do. That's all I can afford. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I got the perfect amount. Okay. Workers then can go to the correct location to start building some sort of a wonder. In this case, the lighthouse, which would give me an extra 6 culture per year, plus some extra money per population, and all coastal cities would get an extra 50% gold, which is massive given that I have, you know, a lot of cities. I'm out of orders at the moment, so there's not much I can do yet. And also, wait, why is this not even an option here? Oh, there it is, wonders. Oh, wow, there's a lot of wonders over here. Okay, so Egypt, of course, likes building things like the Hanging Gardens and pyramids and whatnot. Someone else is trying to build, what is it called? The, I have a, there it is. The Apadana, which is a wonder I wanted to control for my ambition, but it looks like I'm not going to get that option. So Persia started building that sucker. Yeah, there's a bunch of different wonders, and they all require a lot of different resources. I want a whole bunch of them if I can. There we go, I can go ahead and start building it. It takes 12 years for us to do this, and it takes up one of our orders per year to do so. But we have officially begun the construction of the lighthouse, so I have a wonder on the way. How are we doing over here, Egypt? Oh boy, you still have a lot of stuff coming after me, don't ya? Whee! Oh, okay, so he just suddenly swarmed some units out from beyond the fog, and my wife got crippled because she was my general, so that kind of sucks. But yeah, that's another thing that the enemy can do. Because you can move your units a really long distance, assume that your enemy can do the same thing. So he just spent a ton of orders just moving 3 units. Probably not doing much of anything else, but that was all it took in order to take me down a peg, which kind of sucks. So there we go. Let's go ahead and move you guys forward. I am spending pretty much everything I have got at this point, just trying to move my units into position to do as much damage as is possible. And we're raining death upon them, but I am not spending any orders actually upgrading my economy. And this is the big trade-off. If you're going to go for a major war effort and have a lot of different units, you want to have the logistics built up in your empire to actually make that worth your while. That said, it seems like we are actually starting to make some good progress in this war. I did manage to take a city, and if we can keep killing his units, then Egypt will gradually go down. And I think this is a good place to go ahead and end this video because I've shown off a fair bit of what the early game can look like and a lot of the different features that Old World has to offer. And adding in this lighthouse will be certainly a nice feather in my cap. Though it looks like the graphics need to be updated here. Early access, guys, still has a little bit of a ways to go. So Old World, I think it's a really cool concept for a game, taking a lot of the good stuff of a 4X civilization style of strategy game and then adding in the dynastic character focus certainly adds a different level of depth and flavor. The biggest thing for me, though, is it's really difficult. I don't know if it's because I need to unlearn a lot of the habits that I built up playing Civilization, because it seems like the AI knows something that I do not, and that's why on anything higher than the very easy difficulties, it absolutely obliterates me. So this game is a lot more difficult than it looks, and if you want to get competitive at it, then I think you're going to have to approach it from a whole different way. That's one of the things that interests me so much. Despite looking a lot like Civilization, it clearly is not Civilization and requires a totally different approach and playstyle if you want to be very good at it. I'm going to include a link in the description down below if you guys want to take a look at it. Again, it is going into early access on the Epic Games Store as of today. Thank you all very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If so, then I'd ask you to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.